Let's start with the main news story over the weekend, the blast in Liverpool. Still undergoing intensive, security checks and people trying to work out what's going on. We had the MP, Kim Johnson, whose constituency in which it happened. We spoke to Will Geddes, security expert. One of the things that it showed was, yes, the bravery of David Perry, the driver. And also I thought it shone a rather impressive light on our security services. But the question is, how do we deal with somebody, and I'll ask you both this directly, who is prepared to strap a bomb to their body and get in a car? How do you deal with that, Dominique? Ever?
I don't think there's ever an easy answer in terms of prevention, I think. But I think once an incident like that happens, there's always something that you can do in terms of cracking down on these criminals as quickly and as harshly as possible, and exploring things like deportation where possible. I don't think there should be any mercy or, this thing about thinking about the terrorists' feelings and their rights, which is what a lot of activist left-wing lawyers tend to take advantage of. If people are prepared to murder people and blow themselves up and attack British citizens here, I don't think that there should be any mercy in terms of the law for those types of people, not at all.
Darryl, what's your take on this, my friend?
Complicated, isn't it? I think the first thing to acknowledge is that counter-terrorism is a jigsaw, isn't it? There are 4 Ps to the UK's counter-terrorism plan: pursue, to protect, to prepare, and to prevent. Mm-hmm. And security services can really only do as much as they can, right, with the intelligence they've got, the finite resources that they've got. For me, the most important pillar in those 4 Ps is prevent. It's about stopping people being radicalized in the first place. We can firefight all we like, but we have to stop people being falling into rabbit holes of toxic ideologies. And actually, it's worth us saying that there's a lot of good work going on to do that, actually. Day in, day out, there are really dedicated, talented, diligent people who are working really, really hard to try to steer people who are vulnerable to being radicalized away from that kind of thing. And until we can firefight all we like, but we have to stop the fires being in the first place.
Do you think, both of you, that we should give the security forces more knowledge? We then get into the whole debate about, the privacy laws and stuff. For me, to defend this country, if we need to be able to find out more about a dubious individual, and I'm not any of those people that are jumping up and down today talking about illegal immigrants. There are terrorists in this country. Should we not be able to say to our security services, you can do whatever you want, whatever surveillance you need? Do you not think that's right to protect the people of this country? Darryl, I'll start with you.
I guess so. And I think a lot of that goes on. I think this is the thing that we can often lose sight of when we have these conversations, is that, for every attack that makes the headlines, there are several that are foiled that don't, away from the news agenda. And day in, day, literally, as we sit here and we speak right now, there are security services and people who are part of the umbrella of Prevent who are working hard, tirelessly, to try to steer these vulnerable people away from radicalization, and I think it's an important part of the conversation.
When you say vulnerable, at the risk, not trying to sound harsh at all, but I get a bit fed up with people saying they're vulnerable and they've been radicalized. There are just evil people in the world, aren't there? There are, Dominique, people who think it's okay, radicalized or not, to strap a bomb on and kill innocent people, and I don't think those people should be treated with any degree of decency at all, because they haven't shown it back.
No, I don't. And, if it were the case that, religion is this thing that just sucks poor people into these toxic ideologies that commit this sort of violence, you'd see far, far more terrorist attacks inspired by other religions, inspired by religion in general. You'd see far more Muslims. We don't know in reference to this specifically.
No, we don't. It's not been said.
In terms of, say, for example, Shamima Begum, the argument around her was that, she was a child, that she was influenced, that, she's our responsibility. And I just think about the things that ISIS specifically did in their caliphate, beheading people, raping people, murdering people. And for me, I just don't see that.
Where were her parents, without sounding boring? Where were her parents when she was flying at 15 years of age? But let's not go back to her. Listen, this next bit, I know how excited Dominique is to talk about this. I'm sure you will, Darryl. HS2, decision today. The government is set to scrap. Is it ever going to happen? Does it matter? The government is set to scrap the eastern leg of HS2 between the Midlands and Leeds. The Transport Department is instead expected to announce a new rail plan on Thursday involving 96 billion now of funding for new routes in the North and Midlands. Sources say the impact of scrapping the Leeds leg of HS2 would make your journey longer by 20 minutes. So that means spend 100 billion. Darryl, help me out. What do you think of HS2?
It matters. It matters massively. You know it matters, Jeremy, because you've been in Manchester.
But does it matter?
Yes, and you know as well, Dominique, because you're in the north of England. You know full well that it matters to the northern powerhouse.
All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll say it matters, but I have absolutely no confidence it's going to happen. I think it's absolute blarney.
It's a waste of money.
Those are two different things. Those are two different things. I agree. And you say it's a waste of money, but actually, it is central to levelling up. The idea that we are going to extend wealth, opportunity, and progress to parts of the country who have absolutely been left behind, which by the way takes us directly back to the conversation about radicalisation, right?
Yep.
And people who are vulnerable, parts of society who have been left behind in the last couple of decades.
I'll drop my pen. Carry on.
This has to happen. So enthusiastic if you become, Jeremy, for HS2. Can you believe?
Not HST. He said HST.
HS2. It's the Terry Christian. Yeah. That's the Terry Christian in me, clearly. But let me make one final point, Dominique. Can I make one final point about this? Because the reason that it matters is because of all of those things, right? But also it's going to create 100,000 urban jobs. It's going to cut people out of their cars. It is central, the engine of the success of this country in the next couple of decades.
Got to answer that, Dominique.
So it has to happen.
Okay, well, I think that's a very well put argument, but I think my issue with HS2, and I was reading a really interesting article on this today, and the author was basically arguing that in making this decision, the government has essentially accepted that HS2 is just a massive vanity project for people in the south who really don't have any idea about what it's like to live in the north, and not just in the main cities like Manchester, like Leeds, because a lot of the time the conversation has been very, very centrally focused on Leeds and the main cities.
But here I find myself agreeing with Darryl. Just hear me out. He did just say what it was like living in the north. My opinion is different, right? I consider that money could be better spent levelling up than, and somebody, I don't know which one of you said vanity project. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't see it happening at all. It's something that we'll still be talking about. Spend the 100 billion on making the people up north, their industries, their jobs, whatever you want to do. I just personally think I do think vanity project's a good description, to be fair.
Right, thank you. So you agree with me?
I always agree with everybody. Right, listen, I want to see your faces. Oh, go on. Go on.
What I mean is, for them to make this decision and instead sort of give a consolation prize of reinvesting into local railway, I think that sort of is a reflection of the real issue, and it's that we need to focus on local infrastructure projects, not major things like HS2. They're going to cost a lot of money, and really the reason that they're doing it is to benefit people in the south. In the north and within Manchester even specifically, our railways are ancient. They've got very poor investment. It's nothing compared to the underground that Londoners benefit from. I've used it whenever I'm in London and I think it's great. I think there needs to be a lot more focus on connecting smaller parts of the north together, smaller towns.
Right, listen,
that's true. I would agree with that as well, by the way.
Before we go on, you just said Terry Christian. Terry Christian and I have known each other a long time. I've decided you look like Terry Christian, and
I know you said that,
but don't model yourself. Don't model yourself on Terry Christian.
Rude.
Don't model yourself, because I will tell you off air a reason, and a nice reason, but you mustn't. Now listen, my other thing, very quickly. Are we going to be heading for Christmas lockdown? Or have, in fact, Teflon Boris, right, who last week slipped 6 points behind the Labour Party after debacle over expenses, is going to bounce back again because the whole of Europe's under fire and Boris got it right? What do you make of that, Darryl?
I think that I really hope we don't. I think there's something that we can all agree on. Dominique and I have had these debates before. We were on the television a couple of months back.
All right, okay. Just because I wasn't on the television, come on.
Sorry, we don't always invite you, Jeremy. All right. We were talking about the fact that we have these tools, right, and that we all want to avoid a lockdown.
Yeah.
And the way that we can avoid a lockdown is by using these tools that we have in our armour. Vaccination is clearly one of them. Masks in public places, masks in tight public places, ventilation. Tools, they're tools. We can do it. We can do it. We can avoid this if we want to.
Blackmail tools. They're blackmail tools not. Because.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll see you. All right. Well, see you at the next. See you at the next lockdown then.
Jeremy, listen, right. Boris Johnson has now started his winter blackmail scheme, and this is all about the boosters. He's basically threatening people at that presser, saying if you don't get your booster, we're going to have restrictions. And the definition of what it means to be fully vaccinated will now have to change if you don't get your booster. My friend who has family who lives in Paris, he was telling me that they've actually extended the vaccine passport as a third booster if you're over 65, and they're going to bring down the
I'm
age
supposed
range
to have my booster on Thursday.
That's
I'm supposed to have my booster on Thursday, and I'm not 65. Don't say anything. Turn that age round, 56. I think you two would be a great. I want to go out for a night with you two. You're fantastic. You don't know. Right, final thing. Apparently, that annoying little 18-year-old who needs to go back to school, Greta Thunberg or whatever her name is. Blah blah blah. COP26. Success or failure, Darryl?
A bit of both. I tried to attach a binary success or failure onto this when we covered it on my show over the weekend, and it happened sort of just.
When is your show at the weekend?
Friday, Saturday, 10 till 1.
Is that at night or in the morning? In the evening?
At night time.
And you've never invited me on your show then, no? You've never invited.
No, you can. You're very welcome. You're very welcome to come on my show. You're very welcome, actually.
I don't think I should have to beg, but carry on.
Fair point. I think a bit of both. I think that we were never going to be able to walk away with this with Greta Thunberg and Vladimir Putin both happy. Right?
I like the analogy.
Bringing 200 countries together was never going to be easy. I think the reality is, and I think that Boris Johnson and Alex Sharma, particularly Alex Sharma, who was very emotional about this, knows that it didn't do what it needed to do. The current rate of 2.4 is utterly devastating, and it puts a lot of pressure on the next one that probably shouldn't be on the next one. Okay, glad it happened, but not enough, I think is the honest truth.
Fantastic. Dominique, to finish?
It was just like a virtue signalling festival. You had Prince Charles on the podium lecturing us about climate change, saying that we need to go on a military war footing, whatever that means.
Is he wrong?
No, yes, he is wrong. 400 private jets were used by all of the delegates and officials for this conference. All terrible for the environment. You've got these rich people that do things that contribute massively to the environment in comparison to the average person, telling us that we need to stop eating meat, telling us that we need to stop flying planes, telling us that we need to fundamentally change our lives on a military-like footing. Prince Charles saying that to us from his palace. It rubs a lot of people up the wrong way. Nobody's saying that we shouldn't protect the planet, take care of the planet, but there's something
sounds a bit like you are, actually.
I listen.
I do believe we should protect the planet.
I do,
but I don't like. Sorry, can I just finish quickly?
No, absolutely. Just carry on arguing.
Sorry, I don't like the fact that mega rich people who do things that cause pollution every single day are there lecturing the average person on what they should do, eating meat, having children.
I have to go. I'm being shouted at by Dave Levine. You two are diamond. Get them on every week. You two are fantastic.